Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Real Steel, where we talk all things Pittsburgh Steelers. No BS, just The Real Steel. I'm your host, Jeff, joined by my co-host, Polt. Polt, unfortunately, we don't have a good story to tell this week. The Steelers kind of get clobbered on Sunday Night Football, 25-10 to the Chargers. I'm going to go out there on a limb and say this was Aaron Rodgers' worst performance of the season. He looked terrible. And I'll leave you to defend him if you want, but that put a sour taste in my mouth after watching that game last night. It's Monday. This is a kind of a short reaction to this game, but got me walking back a lot of the things that I said earlier in the year. So let's get your pulse, your gut check. Where are you sitting right now? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? Because it's not too hot over here where I am, admittedly.
Yeah, I mean, weather-wise it might be, but yeah, you came out of the gates pretty warm here, going right after Aaron Rodgers in the intro to the episode. Listen, there is no defending last night's performance. That was easily his worst performance of the season, maybe his worst in a season and a half, going back to early last year with the Jets. I mean, he looked bad. He was high on every throw. He missed throws. He made poor decisions. I mean, there really isn't much to defend about last night's game. But to say you want to walk back everything that he's done so far this season or what you expect from him is I think, a bit of an exaggeration, a bit of an overreaction Monday type take, in my opinion. I'm not saying that he's going to be a superstar, and he hasn't been, but to just say all of the trust that you'd finally have built up with him is now gone after one performance, I don't know. That's kind of, I think that's taking it a bit too far.
Yeah, listen, it's not necessarily him, right? I think objectively, you said it right there. I mean, it was his worst game
Yeah.
of the season, and everyone's going to have bad games, so that's it is what it is, right? But I think where I'm kind of struggling is that, gosh, I think after last night's game, I really got hit with the fact of, man, this seemed like it was a different Steelers team, but it's not. It's the same team. It's that build hope, squeak by, get some good wins, have some bad losses, get you to be right around 500. Maybe you make the playoffs. Probably get disappointed in the first round of the playoffs. After last night's game, it just felt like that was what's going to happen this season. I mean, we've sat here and we've talked about how through so many of our games we've put up 30 points on the scoreboard, and if our defense can hold teams to sub 20 or 20 something points. The Chargers scored 25 points against us last night. If the offense stayed on the field for a little bit longer in many of these drives, Chargers may not have put that many points on the board, and we definitely could have won this game, right? It was a
Yeah.
home game pretty much with the fans and the energy that was in that stadium. And LA got off to a pretty slow start, honestly. They only put up 12 points in the first half, and they didn't put up that touchdown until the very, very end of the first half. So we were sitting at 5-3, a weird, wonky score, almost down to the wire at the end of the second quarter. So this was not like a game that necessarily got away from us from a defensive perspective.
No.
I felt like there were many times where it was just like, I'm looking here at kind of a drive recap, and it's like the Chargers had 5 points for a while, they had 12 points for a while, they had 15 points for a while. Like, our defense didn't do that bad of a job, and our offense just could not put anything on the board. Now, we did miss a field goal. Boz missed, I think it was a 45-yard field goal after knocking in a 59-yarder, but it makes you wonder if things would be a little bit different had he made that kick, but I don't really think so, right? You got no production from the offense until that very, very last drive, the touchdown to Roman Wilson in garbage time, where it seems like the Chargers didn't really care, weren't really playing defense. So, sour taste in my mouth for sure, as you can tell. But I just have this feeling that it's no different right now.
I mean, yeah, if you want to talk about the Steelers as a whole, I mean, I guess the most frustrating thing about last night is the defense has actually played two really solid games back to back. Last night they weren't perfect, but they played pretty well. And to your point, they would have held them to less points if the offense could do anything. So I do think the defense played better and it is continuing to get better, especially as they try to work Jalen Ramsey into that safety position. You know, we had injuries at corner
Hmm.
last night. I mean, they were battling some stuff, and I thought still played a pretty good football game. They held Justin Herbert to 220 yards on 33 passes. They gave up 115 rush yards. That was a little disappointing. Kamani Vidal kind of ran all over us, which was a little bit disappointing, but they had 5 sacks again and you know held them to 6 of 17 on third downs but they were on the field for 37 and a half minutes and there's really not a whole lot you can do there. So 25 again, it's 23 by the defense giving up, and I think it could have been better. But here was our second half: a 4-play 19-yard punt, a 3-play 2-yard punt, an 8-play 45-yard turnover on downs, a 2-play 10-yard interception, and then the garbage time touchdown. They couldn't. They barely had any first down. I think that's what, like, 2, 3 first downs the entire second half, and the first half wasn't much better. So it's kind of the offense was nowhere to be found last night. I thought Jalen Warren played as good as he could have played. He tried to carry us on his back, but yeah, Aaron Rodgers was awful, and we really obviously the offense and the defense felt that and really struggled because of it. But yeah, I mean, I think the frustration is we've had multiple teams this year, right? We've had great offensive games and the defense can't stop anything, and we've now had really good defensive games or better defensive games, and the offense can't do anything, and we can't seem to get in line and play a full game together offensively and defensively, and I think that's what's a little frustrating. But I feel like that also could give a little hope if you want some optimism, right? The defense is going the right direction. At least it seems. The last two teams, two really good offenses, and we kind of held them in check if you really look at it. So the defense seems to be playing better, and the offense has been better the rest of the year. So if the offense can get back on track, maybe we can put something together. I'm not saying a playoff win or whatever, but maybe we could, and that's the way I'm trying to look at this game.
Yeah, I mean, I would think and hope that that happens, right? 10 points for the final score here for the Steelers is I would gosh, I don't want to bite my words here, but I'd be willing to bet, like I'd put money on that being our lowest score
Yeah,
all season. Like I don't
I
think
agree.
we're going to put less than 10 points on the board, especially when Aaron Rodgers is back there throwing 31 passes and we are getting some production on the run game out of the run game with Jalen Warren. Like I do think, last night was certainly a night of miscues, right? We missed
Yeah,
that field goal. Joey Porter Jr. had a pretty bad miss on an interception. Aaron Rodgers had that terrible interception that he threw. We had the
Calvin
muff.
Austin.
Yep. We had the muff punt. We had the turnover within like the 5 yard line. Not turnover on downs.
Yeah.
So I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like so many miscues that had a few of those gone our way, it might have been closer to a one possession game or something like that. But I like the point that you brought up, right? And you can look at it through that optimistic side, but it really is a roulette wheel with what we're getting with the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
And you never know what the combination is going to be. If the offense is clicking and the defense is clicking, we're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, right? We're going to beat the New England Patriots, who are sitting atop the AFC East. We're going to beat the Indianapolis Colts, who are sitting atop the AFC South, two of the best teams. But we also could get, one thing firing and one thing not. And we could lose to the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Flacco like we did a few weeks back. Or, we could have some of these bum games where we let the Packers walk all over us or the Vikings almost come back and beat us. So there's so many different combinations and permutations of what ultimately this team could be. But I really do feel like you never know what you're going to get. You have to you're just spinning the roulette wheel and seeing what we land on to ultimately dictate the team that we're going to have. It's pretty wild how predictable but unpredictable this team can be at the same time. It's baffling, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, this team has kind of proven that we I don't know if it's the age of the team or what, but we can't play night games. And I for
Yeah.
one, I know you don't like Sunday night football, you haven't for years. I for one have always looked forward to primetime games because it's your chance to showcase your team in front of the nation, and it's a standalone game. There's a lot less, distractions going on. But man, we're 0-3 in primetime games, and I mean that's the loss of the Bengals, that's the domination by the Packers, and that's the domination by the Chargers over us, and
And
we
we
just
got one
don't.
more coming.
Right, and we just don't come ready to play is what it seems like. Our first halves of all of those games were pretty bad. And so I don't know if that's coaching, I don't know if that's age of the players just not getting up for it. I don't know what it is, but Joe Flacco falls asleep on the sidelines during primetime games and he somehow still throws for 300-400 yards. So I feel like age is just an excuse in this, but it really does feel like this team can't get itself ready for a night primetime game, and that's really frustrating.
Yeah, solid point, and that sucks because
Yeah, I
um,
loved primetime games. Now I hate them.
yeah, it's so hard to watch as a fan, especially when you invest, so much of your time and energy waiting for the game, and ultimately it's built up, and
Yeah.
you're excited even though you don't want to be excited because you know what's going to happen inevitably,
Yep.
and then you go to bed and you can't go to bed because you're ticked off, and you want to turn it off early and you can't because it's the
Yep.
Steelers, and gosh, it's it's rough, man. And yeah, I'm looking at the schedule here, and we got Miami coming pretty darn soon on a Monday night football game. I mean, maybe that will get flexed, who knows? But that's in December. But still, man, I'm just like I'm fed up with them, like you are, and there's nothing that can be done there, right? Like that's the way it goes in the NFL. We're bound to get some of those games, and the Steelers are a team with a big time fan base, so you know that that's going to happen. So we got to be ready to go and play those games,
Yeah.
especially when you're going into a stadium like SoFi where the Chargers don't necessarily have a big loyal fan base there, and you saw on the broadcast how many Steelers fans there were and how many terrible towels there were and
Yeah.
all that jazz, and ultimately what happens, we put up 10 points on the board and lose in a crappy game. So yeah, it's as you can tell, I'm kind of just trying to, they'll get me hyped up next week when they win, or some this is gonna it's just a carousel, a
Yeah.
carousel of emotions. This, and it always is. But I think after this game, more so than ever this season, is kind of this is my point where I'm realizing what's happening, and I need to level set and not get my expectations up because we're halfway through the season. We're one game above 500, just where Mike Tomlin wants to be, even though he would never say that. That's where he wants to be. So, um,
Yeah, and it's hard too because we watched this same exact movie last year with the Russell Wilson experience, and that kind of is what last night felt like. It felt like the Russell Wilson experience all over again, just with Aaron Rodgers. And so, yeah, I completely understand the frustrations and the not expecting anything moving forward. I, the Mike Tomlin stuff from I didn't watch his press conference fully, but from everything I've read online, it was a different tone from him than they've ever seen, which I thought was really interesting. And he was really hard on Rodgers supposedly.
hmm,
And I know TJ and Cam Hayward took blame on the defense and said they can't live and die by the turnovers. But again, I can't blame the defense. The defense did everything they needed to do last night. Sure, they weren't
correct.
perfect, but like I think they did enough. And so I don't know. Maybe we say this all the time, and maybe we need Jalen Ramsey to give a speech every single week like he did before the Colts game. But it sounded like Tomlin's taking this in a way different way and didn't use his BS "we play JV football" excuse tonight, or for last night. And so maybe something does change. It's hard to get your hopes up and expect that, but yeah, I mean, we'll see where this takes us. And this could be the defining game for our year. It could make or break us. We've now lost three of four, albeit two of them to really good teams. But I mean, we have some really good teams coming up soon with the Baltimore Ravens double matchup coming up soon. So, yeah, this is a really big turning point for the eventual season.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I stayed off Twitter. I didn't watch any of the press conferences. I'm just like kind of in my own element over here with this game. But let's at least talk a little bit about maybe the offense and the defense
Yep.
specifically, special teams too, just because we always do. Um, I do think you at least noted earlier, Jalen Warren certainly did everything he could, and
Yep.
I firmly believe that too. 14 carries for 70 yards. That's an average of 5 yards per carry. A couple targets, he caught them both averaged about 10 yards on those 2 plays. So Jaylen Warren, I think, is continuing to show that he can be an RB1 in this league and
Yeah.
for the Steelers, and is doing a damn good job, even when you're out Isaac Seumalo and you have some new formations there on the offensive line. So I'm very pleased with how the run game was, and with that, I'm a little bit disappointed why that wasn't utilized so much. Only 16 carries total for the game. Granted, we're playing from behind, right? So maybe that impacts strategy. But to me, the storyline here, which we very much covered and already talked about, but Aaron Rodgers was 16 of 31, so just above 50%. In terms of completion percentage, 161 yards, did have that touchdown at the very end to Roman Wilson, but 2 interceptions, sacked a few times, which I think a few of them probably were on
Yeah.
him. But just again, not his best game, not really a good game for him at all. Yeah, kind of just a sad performance from the offense. What's your take?
Well, I'll start with the Jaylen Warren stuff. You kind of walked yourself into some of the outrage that's going on online after this game. So if you notice, he had 16 touches in the game, and it goes to your predictability comment as well. He had 16 touches. He only played 24 offensive snaps. He only played 46% of the snaps. Kenneth Gainwell played 52% of the snaps. And then a Caleb Johnson, 4 snaps for 8%. Nobody knows. Everybody's asking why Jaylen Warren didn't play more. He dominated. He was the only offense. He had 70 rushing yards on 14 attempts, 21 receiving yards after an 18-yard catch, on the 2 catches. He was the only offense we had, and still he was not even playing half of the time. That's some of the major outrage from Steelers fans after this game. But you talked about Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how you felt watching the game, but when I watched the game, I thought he was under duress and pressured the entire game. And I thought the offensive line didn't play very well, and he kind of showed it. But when you look at the stats, the next-gen stats, he was only pressured on 8 of 34 dropbacks, which is like 23.5%. And they've only blitzed him once, which is the second lowest rate by any team in a game this season, which is 2.9%. But under pressure, he was 0 for 5, took 3 sacks, including the safety. But, like, he was only pressured 8 of 34 dropbacks. Like, when I watched the game, I thought that he was under duress the whole game, but it didn't seem that way. I think it didn't end up being that way. I think for the first time this year, he's been doing it, but not as badly, was scared of the rush and actively was playing scared of the rush and not willing to get hit and being scared to get hit and didn't trust his O-line. And I think that's part of the reason why he threw some terrible balls and made some bad decisions, and everything came out high. I mean, you can count the DK Metcalf, the long pass early in the game that could have been a touchdown. He overthrew him. That's a high ball.
Johnny Smith.
Right, the
Yep.
Johnny Smith one, that's a walk-in touchdown. Towards the end of the game when we had the fourth and 6 that we threw the fade to DK Metcalf, he threw it well over Kenneth Gainwell, and that's probably a first down. I mean, the pass to Calvin Austin for the interception was not his fault, but everything else was his fault, and he just looked terrible. And I saw this online, and I didn't really think about it until then, but it did kind of look like he was questioning some of the play calls. Like that DK Metcalf fade route, I don't think was the play. And as Collinsworth, he made a lot of bad comments last night, but as he did say, that was he stared down DK Metcalf and he was throwing it no matter what. He didn't care what the coverage was, even though it was double coverage. But the play on the other side, on the left, Pat Freiermuth was coming open for a touchdown, and he didn't even look that way. So it kind of seemed like he went a little rogue last night, didn't trust Arthur Smith, and didn't have his best stuff. I mean, he didn't have anywhere. He was downright awful, and was the reason the offense was so poor. And I don't know. He's got to figure out whatever's going on with him. He wasn't great against the Colts, but he wasn't this bad. He was awful yesterday, and whatever's going on with him and Arthur Smith, whether there's no trust there or he doesn't trust the offensive line, or I don't know what it is, but they do need to figure it out because, yeah, we won't win a single game the rest of the year if the offense plays like it did last night.
Yeah, he just looked like, in one word, he just looked off, right? Like
Yes.
it's pretty clear, and it was pretty clear from the get-go on the first drive with some of those early throws, and just as the game progressed, and the safety probably rattled him maybe a little bit more than he should. Like, he played that game as if he was a rookie quarterback, not an NFL MVP, future Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winner,
Yeah.
etc., whatever all of his accolades are. he just flat out looked off. And again, uh, uh, in the moment, of course, I'm pissed and I'm gonna,
Yeah.
curse him out and say he played like shit.
Well, he
We
did.
talked. Well, of course he did, but we talked about how different it was having someone like him, literally just last episode, in
Yeah.
terms of throwing away the ball and making the right decisions and knowing when to take a sack and hold on to the ball and whatever, and not being so risky. And just in 1 week we regressed a lot, but. Yeah, I go back to the very early comments you said. Like, I'm not hanging in the towel or
Yeah.
throwing in the towel or giving up on him, but I'm grateful that he's our quarterback right now. This I just hope is the bottom.
Yeah.
Like, this is where he bottoms out, and
Yeah.
hopefully it's all uphill, right? Like,
I agree.
hopefully we don't see anything worse than this. And I don't really know how you can, honestly. I made a remark to you towards the end of the game after his second interception, and I think you definitely got misinterpreted a little bit. So let me clear myself up. I said put in Mason,
Yeah.
and I want to go back and read the text, but I think you were like, "Come on, man, what the fuck?" But honestly,
Yeah.
at that point in the game, knowing what the score was, knowing that you weren't going to win this game, Rodgers needs to clear his head. Like,
Yeah.
and they should have just said, just sit down. Like, we're just going to put in Mason, let him ride for a little bit, see if he goes in and has a touchdown on a drive or puts together something or a couple nice passes, because it doesn't matter. And it's not like that they were going to sit him down and Rodgers would get benched moving forward. That's not
Yeah.
what it was about. I do think in the moment that would have been a good thing, just to say, dude, sit down. You're done. You're clearly off. You're having a rough night. We're just going to put in Mason. The game's over. We lost it anyways. Let him get some snaps and stay fresh, or who knows. I think, I don't know. Well, I shouldn't say I think, because you're here to probably talk for yourself. But I did not mean like, hey, let's move on to Mason. I'm done with Rodgers. I think it was like, let's just like cut our losses
Yeah.
for tonight. You know what I mean? That's really where I was sitting.
Yeah, I think my initial reaction was, yeah, you were done with him, moving on. Let's move to Mason. But really, where I was coming from was more, and what you're saying makes sense. Why? I mean, we need him. Why get him injured in a game that we definitely can't win? I totally get that point of view. Let him sit down and think about it, because he was awful. I think where I was thinking was going back to the week before against the Colts, and the Colts were in a very similar situation, right? Daniel Jones was getting harassed by us the entire game. Their offense had been doing nothing, but in garbage time they were able to put together a few scores, and ultimately they came back and had a decent offensive game, albeit it was all Jonathan Taylor, but this past Sunday. And I think that was my thought. Let's try to use the garbage time. Let's try to use the prevent defense to get ourselves in a little bit of a rhythm, maybe get Rodgers back on track a little bit, and take that positive momentum after a pitiful game into the following week. And that was kind of the approach I was taking. And you could say what you want about the touchdown drive. They did drive down and score a touchdown
Mm-hmm.
against prevent defense, but they did drive down in a 2 minute drive and do it. So I thought that was kind of valuable, at least for the offense moving forward. And that was my argument to keep Rodgers in the game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally fair, and we did end up putting a touchdown on the board, which I guess is good for morale, good for the stat sheet, whatever it might be. I found that text. I said, put in Mason, and your response was, all right, chill out. So, uh, and I proceeded to say he'd do better than Rodgers tonight, and you said, what does putting in Mason do for us?
Right.
Nothing. And I said, it tells Aaron that the world doesn't revolve around him, which I think Aaron needed to see in that moment. I mean, early on in the game, of course, when he makes a bad throw, or someone gets overthrown, or a receiver misses a ball, whatever,
Yeah.
they pan to Rodgers, and it looks like he's like screaming his head off at them. So there's some things that definitely don't rub me the right way, about him and his play style, and who knows what's going on behind the scenes. Like you said,
Right.
maybe there's some beef with Arthur Smith, but at the end of the day, we're halfway through the season, right? We have
Yeah.
9 games under our belt. There's 9 more to go, right?
Yep.
And 8 more to go, I guess. 8 more weeks, 8 more games that the Steelers have. And we got to get our shit together. We really got to get it figured out, because if you look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers have on their schedule, I'll go through it really quick and then we can transition over to defense and wrap up this game. We play the Bengals this week. We play at Chicago the following week. And then we have some really, really tough teams with the Bills, the Ravens. We have the Dolphins in there. It's a primetime game. Dolphins are showing they can put up some points right now, even though their record doesn't show it. And then we play in Detroit. And then we have a game against Cleveland. And we round out with a game against the Ravens. So out of those games, I mean, Ravens twice, Lions right there. Even if you ignore the Dolphins and go to the Bills, those are four really, really hard teams, and those are all playoff teams. And quite frankly, those are all probably Super Bowl contenders. So we have
Yeah.
4 games against those 2 teams, right? Or against those 3 teams. If we lose all 4 of those games, that gives us a 9-8 season if we can win the rest. And so the Steelers got to do something if they want to stay alive and keep their head above water. So
Two quick comments about the offense before we move on. Really quick. Just efficiency has been their biggest thing in how they've scored points and how they've played well. They had drives that started on their own 40, the Chargers 46, their own 37 twice, and they came away with 3 points on those 4 drives. Those are things that haven't happened earlier this year that we got to get back to working out. Secondly, I think last night showed how urgent it was to get a wide receiver 2 at the trade deadline, and we did not do it because there was, I mean, a lot of the plays, there weren't many people open either. And DK Metcalf was getting double teamed because guess what? They weren't afraid of anybody else. And Calvin Austin played a bad game. He had the bad catch on the sideline that he didn't get his feet in. Should have easily had it. He had the drop that led to the interception. Calvin Austin didn't play well. Roman Wilson was kind of nowhere to be found until garbage time. The tight ends didn't really do a whole lot. So I think they need to rethink some things because they're glaring holes. Whether that's calling MVS up and getting somebody that can stretch the field like he can very, very well, and open up DK, maybe take some safety help off of him, or it's getting having Jonnu Smith play as a wide receiver. The guy had like 900 yards last year, and I don't want him playing over Darnell Washington because I like the heavy sets, but like him and Pat can play. So, like, get them more opportunities to make an impact in the passing game, and maybe something will change. So those are my last 2 comments about the offense. And
no, solid points. I'm glad you brought those up because I think we very much overlooked the wide receiver 2 thing, and
yeah,
I admittedly thinking like, oh, it's not going to happen. We don't really need it. And after seeing a performance like last night, where you mentioned that DK gets double covered the whole game, and he's held to 3 catches for 35 yards on 7 targets, it does show that that's needed. And the field position, when I'm glad. Sorry, go
I was
ahead.
just going to say it's too easy to take DK out of the game because there's nobody else they're worried about.
Yeah. And the field position bit that you mentioned, I'm glad because that's something I wanted to mention completely kind of slipped my mind. It felt like we were on the 40-yard line so many times in that game. We couldn't do anything with it. And so another point of frustration. But yeah, let's talk defense for just a little bit. I know we very, very quickly said at a high level, I think the defense did their job, right? They let up 23 points because that safety can't be necessarily attributed to them. I shouldn't even say necessarily. It shouldn't be at all. Patrick Queen was your leading tackler with 12 tackles. We did get 5 sacks, which, hey, bold prediction, called that.
You did on the number. Good for you.
Yeah. But not that it matters, right? No turnovers in this game. We did have some injuries. It seems like, it seems like Darius Slay gets hurt every freaking game.
Every drive.
I don't know what to do about that, but Joey Porter went down for a little bit. Mentioned that missed interception that he had. I don't know. What's your take on the defense? You probably have a little bit more analytics behind this than I do, because again, I'm rolling on emotion here.
I need to just say I also hit my bold prediction, which wasn't that bold because I said Justin Herbert under 220 pass or under 250, and he had 220. So I also hit it 2 for 2 for us, better than the Steelers. No, I thought that the defense played pretty well. Darius Slay going out, I don't know if necessarily was a bad thing, but he does seem to get hurt every single play, every single drive. It feels like, which I don't know, feel bad for him. But the D line seemed to play a lot better. 2 Highsmith sacks, 1 for Keanu Benton, 1 for Herbig, and 1 for TJ. They were around Herbert a lot, and they weren't necessarily blitzing the whole game, which was good. Just to give Highsmith a little credit, he has 2 sacks in back-to-back games. TJ Watt's never done that. Cam Hayward did it in 2017. That's the last time. And James Harrison was the last edge rusher to do that. So Highsmith is really coming on. I know we've been calling for Nick Herbig to play a little bit. a little bit more. He kind of did. He had 42% of snaps last night. Highsmith had 73 and TJ had 82. So they were kind of getting guys in there. But overall, I thought the defense played well. I still question some of the approach. Like, I know we want to blitz, and I know pressure's a big thing, but when you blitz, all they're doing is playing man to man, and man to man is not something we can play. I mean, that touchdown to Lad McConkey at the end of the first half was the epitome of us trying to play man to man. He just shook Brandon Eccles like it was his job. I mean, it is his job, but like it was nothing, like a fly on the wall. And we aren't man to man corners. It's just not who we are. Joey Porter Jr. wants to be. He's really not. And we need to. I think we need to get more creative and go back to the zones like we did against the Colts. And I don't know. I don't have the statistics to prove what we did, but it's just I did not enjoy that. And maybe they were playing man because Justin Herbert averaged 2.21 seconds, the quickest of his career getting the ball out, so we could only get a 30% pressure rate. But yeah, there are some definitely decisions and approaches that we take on the defensive side of the ball that I don't really get.
Yeah, all good points. We got to see what the injury details here are with Darius Slay because
Yeah.
we at least we made a move today. We
Yep.
released Juan Thornhill and we brought back Sebastian Castro, who was a guy that I don't remember if he had a really productive preseason or
He did.
not. If we seemed to like him, that's what I thought. And he got claimed, I think, by Tampa Bay, and then
Yes.
we were able to just get him back, claim him off waivers. So at least the Steelers are making some moves to realize a few things, right? Like we talked about MVS last week, and we said how bad Juan Thornhill and Chuck Clark were, and so that's going to be no longer a thing. And Kyle Duggar's been in there. Hopefully Jabril Peppers gets healthy and
Yeah.
he's able to come back and see some time. James Pierre, it felt like, was in the game yesterday a lot.
He was.
Um, don't really know how well he played. I don't know if you have any stats or analytics on him other than his 5 tackles, but um, it's it's just an interesting thing that's happening because it feels like we're getting better, but there's still just these glaring things that need to be addressed. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't look at them and say that they haven't gotten improved. They definitely have. But I'm with you. Um, it's not perfect, but I think I think as Ramsey starts to get better at safety, they were moving him around a little bit at the end of the game. As maybe Patrick Queen just decides to start playing again. He had a better game last night, but he still has moments where he looks like he has no idea what's going on. I do think Ramsey does help and Duggar help with the communication. So I mean, think about if we get Deshaun Elliott back, and now we have 3 guys that can play, or I don't know if Ramsey moves back, but I do think there is positivity with the defense, and there's a lot of optimism there too.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add on defense?
No,
Special teams was kind of all over the place. Boz nailed a 59-yarder, and then he went and missed a 45-yarder. Corwus Waitman, decent punting game, 4 for 183, so that's an average of almost 46. The muff punt was a big thing that I think the game was already lost by the time that happened. It was well
yeah,
into the fourth quarter. Geez, excuse me. That muff punt really must have got me. But
you're right.
the end, yeah. That was just something that the Steelers don't usually do, and that was just a nail in the coffin at that point. Once Aaron Rodgers threw that second interception, and then I saw that muff punt, I was like, man, you've just got to be kidding me! Like
Yeah.
we can't get anything to go our way. That's really how I felt.
My only comment on special teams is I do wonder if that muff punt is the nail in the coffin for Keyshawn Williams. I've enjoyed him, and we've talked about it, but like you've brought up numerous times, he really hasn't done anything. And now he muffed a punt. Do we just throw Calvin Austin back there again and call up MVS to replace him? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, it very well could happen. Does MBS do anything from a special teams perspective? Like,
No.
is he? He's not, right? So,
No.
do you think if MBS gets called up, it almost pushes Calvin Austin more into a special teams role away
Definitely
from some of the
return.
wide receiving roles?
Well,
Yeah.
definitely return game, but I don't know about the gunner. I think that's partly maybe why they brought up brought Sebastian Castro. He's a very good special teamer and was during the camp. And so I wonder if they brought him in to solidify special teams so that they could bring MVS up and get rid of Keshawn Nixon.
Well, yeah, that might be the
Or
case.
Keyshawn Williams.
Keyshawn
Sorry.
Williams, yeah, I didn't know who you were saying right there. Clearly,
Keyshawn
you
Williams,
must.
that's what I meant.
All right, Jagoff and Balls of Steel. You got anything good?
I mean, I think the Jag-off, we're going to give it to both to Aaron Rodgers, unless you have something better. It's
Yeah,
hard
no,
to.
this is definitely a double down for Aaron
It
Rodgers. We
has
already
to be.
talked about him. This is his worst game of the season, probably one of the poorer games of his career. I do just want to give you touched on this very briefly. I do want to give like an honorable Polt Jagoff of the week
Love it.
to Carrie Underwood. And it's not her fault because it's not her song, but when she sings, I've been waiting all day for Sunday night. I have not been able to relate to that in years as a Steelers fan. Again,
Yeah.
not her song. Also, no, it's not the original lyrics to the song. But when Carrie Underwood gets back there and sings that, I can't relate. So it's been a real disappointment on Sunday Night Football this year. The Steelers 0 for 2. So
Yeah.
yeah, Carrie Underwood. Sorry, you're kind of just in the line of the fire here for
I like it. That's good.
yeah.
That's
So
a Polt
okay,
special. I'll give
that's
you a.
the Bolt special.
I'll give you a balls of steel if you want.
Yeah, hit me.
I kind of brushed off your comment about him earlier because I was waiting for the balls of steel. I'm going to give it to James Pierre. In a game where not a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
guys did a whole lot, I'm going to give it to James Pierre because James Pierre came in and was forced to play. Let me real quick see. He played 48 snaps or 66% of the defensive snaps with Darius Slade playing 22. So he played most of the game, and I thought he played actually pretty darn well. He had 2 pass breakups, 5 tackles. He now has, crazy enough, never would have guessed this. I think he has 11 targets against, and he has 6 passes broken up on those 11 targets this season.
Wow.
He's surprisingly in the 2 big games, the games that he's played a lot of minutes, or a lot of snaps, I guess, in football. He's actually come and played pretty well. So I just wanted to give James Pierre some love because I have definitely been a known James Pierre hater. And he's great on special teams, and he's now showing some worth on defense. So James Pierre gets my balls of steel.
Well, I hope he can keep that momentum because big game cut up for him with the Bengals wide receiver crew. Whether
Yeah, true.
he's at all on Jamar Chase or on T Higgins or even on some of these guys like Yoshi Bosch or whatever, they can grab the ball. So
Yeah.
he'll have his work cut out for him, and hopefully he can keep that momentum up. So I like that pick. I'm glad that you kind of glazed over that then and didn't go too much into detail. I'm going to give mine to a guy we already talked about. I think he was the best player for the Steelers on the field yesterday, and that's Jaylen Warren. 14 carries, 70 yards, 2 catches for 21. Again, you mentioned it. Granted, there's a predictable element whenever he's on the field. You almost
Yeah.
know the ball is coming his way. But even with that, he's able to be productive. He runs hard, and an extra shout out for that hurdle because that was probably
Awesome.
the the best thing that I've seen all season from an offensive runner on the Steelers. So yeah, Jaylen Warren's going to get mine. I think that's a pretty easy route to go. Stat sheet shows it, and also I think just his grit shows it. Good. It's I'm happy for him. It's good for him because it was really quiet going into the start of the season, talking about the run game with Najee being gone, and drafting a running back and.
Yeah.
Second round, third round, I
Third.
think is when we got Caleb Johnson, right? And so everyone thought he was going to be a pretty clear replacement for Najee. Most people even thought, if you fantasy football player or anything, people thought that he was going to end up splitting carries with
I fell
Jalen.
for it.
A lot of us did, and I think Jalen has definitely showed that he's the clear RB1, and Kenneth Gainwell has been a better running back than Caleb Johnson, or at least given more opportunities, and I
Yeah.
think Jalen has shown that he's even better than Kenneth Gainwell in those primary or early downs from running the ball. So, yeah, sorry, that was long-winded, but
Good.
Jalen deserves it, I think, from my perspective.
I typed it in the spreadsheet before you even started. I knew where you were going. Very deserved. My only comment, maybe I'll figure this out for next week. I want to know what his stats are, what his yards over expected are, because I feel like he gets stuffed so much, and he always finds a way to either break a hole and break it off for 8 or 9 yards, or at least get 3 or 4. So I maybe I'll look that up for next week.
Yeah, let's deep dive there.
All right.
Okay, preview the Bengals game. They beat us once.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to beat us again. I have a hard time seeing it.
Wow.
Um, I don't know, man. It's just I don't feel like we dropped two games to the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think we know Joe Flacco now, and I think we have a really good data point for what has been done earlier in the season. Steelers are actually 5.5 point favorites. It looks like in this game. Um, so I think most of Vegas and most everyone thinks that the Steelers are going to pull this game out here. Um, we mentioned Joe Flacco and is still in there for injured Joe Burrow. Chase Brown, their running back, as of late, has kind of been able to turn it on, be a little bit more productive. And of course, this wide receiving core, I mentioned Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They're a tough battle, especially when we're having some struggles. And in the secondary, it's going to be a tough matchup to kind of guard these guys like it always is. The last game that we played, they beat us 33-31. I wonder if you think that it's going to be another high scoring affair like that.
I mean, if you look at their numbers, they give up 33 points a game, right? They're the worst team in points allowed in football. They give up 260 passing yards. They're 30th in that. 166 rushing yards. They're 32nd in that. They are a terrible, terrible defense. And yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those games where the offense might come ready to play, but we need to make sure we level set and remember that this is the worst defense in all of football, and that we don't allow that to skew our mindset. Offensively, though, we know what they are. Joe Flacco is still going. Joe Burrow came back to practice today, but he will not play this week. They're 14th in points scored, 13th in passing yards, and 32nd in rush yards. But that offense can put up 500 passing yards if they really want to. So it is really important our defense learns from their mistakes in the first go around. And they're also -5 in turnover, which is 27th in the league. So turnovers could play a role. Let's maybe force an interception from Joe Flacco,
Who
to
only
kind of
has
turn
two
the
on the
tide.
season so far in the games he's played.
Right,
So
and so that's going to lead to my bold prediction. I'm going to do two Joe Flacco interceptions.
nice. Who do you
Yeah.
think gets them? I won't.
Oh,
This doesn't have to count, but you see it coming from the secondary. You see, like the safeties. Like you,
I
where are you going?
think. I'm gonna go. Jalen Ramsey gets his first or he gets his, and then the corners can't catch the ball, so I'm gonna go with T.J. Watt makes a huge play to
All
to get
right.
a pick.
I won't hold that. That's like the side bet on your.
Yeah,
I like that. Two interceptions. I mean, that certainly could put us in a really nice position. I'm going to go on the flip side, and I'm going to say this is a good DK game with two touchdowns. I think
love
Aaron
that.
Rodgers is really going to come out. He's going to get over 2,000 passing yards for the season in this game. He's sitting at 1853 right now. DK is just over 500 yards. I think in hope that he has a big game here. He's our leading receiver on the season, both in terms of catches, yards, and I think touchdowns too. He has 5 for the year. So. I think this is going to be a good DK game because you mentioned that defense on the Cincinnati side is just flat out not good, and I think after the last couple of weeks where DK, I think he was held to 2 or 3 catches in back-to-back games, that this is something where they're going to try and scheme him to get open, and they're going to try and do a number of different things. Although I do feel like the defense has probably watched tape and say, hey, if we double DK,
Yeah,
we'll be in good shape. But maybe we do bring up MVS. Maybe we do bring up some other guys, or do some fun, fancy stuff to get some attention in the middle of the field or other areas, and then all of a sudden we can get DK back open. So that's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm pulling for is a big game from DK. Maybe 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's my bold prediction.
all right, I like it. Just to mention, the Bengals are coming off a bye, so they had a Week 10 bye, so they might be getting healthy. Although Trey Hendrickson, their best defensive player, is doubtful to play, announced today by their head coach, so that would be great. And they traded Logan Wilson, who was he got benched, but one of their best middle linebackers. So, yeah, I'm really looking for the offense to have an outing again. And again, we just said again like 3 times, but we need to level set and not like this boost our expectations for the rest of the year, even if they do have a 30-point outing, which I think they do. I think we win the game 33-20. I think it's a dominant performance, but against a bad team, and we need to keep that in perspective. But I do think the Steelers get back on track. I think that the offense found some holes in the defense the Bengals defense at the end of the last game. And then I think our defense has solidified itself a little bit better and can make some plays. So 33-20 Steelers is my score prediction.
33-20, a non-one score win for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's
Yes.
huge.
Yes,
That's huge.
I think they come ready to play. I think this team is going to come pissed off.
Okay, I love it. Just one more thing to kind of hit here. I'm looking at our injury report. The guys that we have been missing, either from this game or the last game or a little bit that aren't sitting on IR. Darius Slay, that was a concussion, is why he went
Yep.
out. Cole Holcomb, Scotty Miller, Jabril Peppers, and Isaac Seumalo. All five of those guys right now are listed as questionable. Again, it's Monday, but I think that's a good sign that they're not necessarily listed as doubtful or listed as out this early. So
Yeah.
I've actually never seen this on ESPN.com. If you look at some of these things, it'll say estimated return.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those have an estimated return of November 16th, which would be
The game.
ready to play for the Bengals. So who knows? But I think that's a good sign pointing forward. And we're obviously we have some of these holes with guys like Deshaun Elliott being out, and maybe Corey Trice would have been great to see how he could play this season. Miles Killebrew on the special team side, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, we've been pretty fortunate that the Steelers have remained mostly healthy.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we get some of those guys back for this game against the Bengals, and we'll go from there. Get those 33 points and hold them to 20.
It is worth mentioning, just to wrap it up, that Will Howard's 21-day practice window ends on Wednesday. So be on the lookout for some roster moves. If they do not take him off of the IR, then he cannot play this year or suit up, and he's done for the year. So just be on the lookout for that. I am very curious, especially with Rodgers struggling, what they decide to do with Will Howard.
It's just you think anything would really happen though? I feel like they'll just keep him on IR and just let it ride because
I think it's very likely. But if they want to see, I don't know. They're never thinking that way. They never are thinking forward.
Yeah.
They're always thinking this year. But this will be very telling.
Yeah, great point. Good to bring up though, worth mentioning.
Yep.
But all right, well, until Sunday. Big game. Steelers need to get back in the win column. Need to get a win against an AFC North opponent as well. So
Yeah.
Baltimore's right on our heels. They're just a game back, and we need a big win here. So let's hope we can get it done. All right. Well, until then, we'll be watching. We'll be waiting. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.